So, what could be killing your progress and growth right now is the relentless pursuit of unrealistic standards, otherwise known as perfectionism. Something that I've personally experienced myself. But wait, do you know whether you might actually be a perfectionist without even realizing it? Because it doesn't always look the way you think. So keep on listening to find out. Hi, and welcome to my channel. I'm Isa Dabek, the self-sabotage specialist, and I help founders and professionals end procrastination, overcome self-doubt and anxiety to expand their potential with confidence and clarity. Now, I do want to mention that this is part of a 3-video series where I explore perfectionism. And in the next 2 videos that follow, I will uncover the root causes, the fears, the beliefs that keep you trapped in this cycle. And then you can find links to the other videos on these topics in the description. And today we're going to unpack what it means to be a perfectionist. How do you know you might even be one? How it impacts your life, business, and career. But most importantly, what you can start doing to break free from its grip. Because perfectionism isn't just a small obstacle, it is a barrier that is holding you back from being your most authentic self and creating your best work. Now, on the surface, perfectionism can look like ambition, drive, or attention to detail. And it's often mistaken for high standards and striving for excellence. But underneath that polished surface lies something entirely different: the need for control, for validation, and that deep fear that if you're not perfect, you're not enough. So perfectionists set the bar so high that it's almost impossible to reach it. So it's not just about achieving goals, it's about avoiding failure at all cost. And there is this pressure that creates anxiety, which then fuels the mind to imagine every possible outcome, especially the worst ones. So this kind of worst case scenario thinking pulls you deeper into that spiral of fear and self-doubt, and then the cycle just keeps on repeating itself. So I know this feeling very well because I've been there myself, and I felt that constant pressure of always needing to do more, to be better, and no matter how much I actually achieved, I never felt like it was enough. I didn't even pay attention to the progress that I made because all I could see was where I wasn't yet. So I would redo content endlessly, second guess my choices, overthink everything, and just really fall into this despair and powerlessness. And it felt like there was this invisible barrier that I just couldn't break through, and I was stuck in this loop. So that pressure to create my best work really left me exhausted, depleted, and I actually began to hide my struggles even from myself. I mean, obviously, a part of me knew that I had problems, but then I convinced myself that obsessing over every detail was somehow necessary because everything just had to be right. Now, it took me forever to produce anything or to finish anything, and I would spend entire days tweaking a single piece of content and just telling myself that it wasn't ready or there must be a better version somewhere. And there were days when I genuinely wanted to give up, and I remember breaking down during one of those moments and calling a friend, and I said to her, "I can't do this anymore. I think I'm going to quit." And I'll never forget what she said to me because it was so clear. And she just said, "Isa, why are you trying to create a masterpiece? Relax, lower down the bar. It's too high." And that really hit me. And it was like my first wake-up call. And the second wake-up call came when I started studying methods that work with the subconscious mind. And that's what allowed me to finally heal the perfectionism that had been holding me back for such a long time. And that's why also I'm here today to share not just what I've learned, but what I've lived to help you recognize the ways that perfectionism might be slowing you down so that you can finally start moving forward. Now, if you are facing this exact challenge and you're wondering whether this approach could help you move faster, I've opened up a few spots in my calendar this week for private sessions. You're welcome to book a call. Or if you prefer, check out my free 60-minute training where I show the real root causes of self-sabotaging patterns and the exact steps that you can take to begin to shift them. You can find links in the description, of course. But let's get back, let's continue, because perfectionism can become a way of living, part of one's identity, where you never feel at peace or satisfied with your work, with your appearance, or even where you are with your career. And it just creates this constant stream of thoughts like, oh, I should be further along by now. I need to do better. I need to be better. And you never really feel at peace. And the consequences go far deeper than most people think. Because this mindset can turn really toxic, especially when your expected standards begin doing more harm than good. And sometimes even this pressure starts to extend to others. So you begin to project outwards your high expectations. And you may even find yourself criticizing or demanding that other people meet those same impossible standards that you have. Or you start noticing their imperfections, and then you start getting upset, expecting them to improve or to change. Now, of course, all of this creates tension in you, in your work, in your relationships, even if you're a leader and you have a business, in your team dynamics. Because you start to expect people to create everything to the utmost perfection. So how can you recognize whether you might be a perfectionist? It starts with becoming aware of how much you demand of yourself. So begin by observing the way you relate to your inner world and just notice your inner dialogue and how you respond to challenges. Are your expectations realistic or are they impossible to meet? Just be absolutely honest with yourself. Do you feel like you should be doing more, be more, like you have never done enough? And do you have a harsh inner critic that just beats you down every time you don't meet your own expectations? Because that voice isn't just critical, it deepens feelings of unworthiness and makes it almost impossible to recognize your own progress, your own growth, no matter how much you achieve. Or maybe you find yourself just constantly redoing your work, spending hours obsessing over the smallest details and just never feeling satisfied with the final result. Because you might actually create something, even a video, a piece of content, or a presentation, and never actually launch it because you might be afraid to share it with the world because in your mind, it's not perfect. And if it's not perfect, someone might judge it or judge you. Now, seeing things through until the end becomes difficult because nothing ever seems good enough. So you may have a habit of starting something and then just abandoning it altogether. And then you're just feeling depleted and disconnected from the very joy of creating that you used to have. Now, of course, this often, means that projects drag on so much longer than necessary. As you perfect every detail, the stress builds up and procrastination sets in. And this is not just out of laziness, this procrastination, but from the fear of getting something wrong, making a mistake, which can totally overwhelm you. Now, if you're a business owner, that fear can keep you stuck, second guessing every move, or maybe you're still waiting for the perfect moment before you finally go all in. Now, perfectionism shows up as excessive planning, overthinking. You may have a super long to-do list, or you just get caught up in researching. And this becomes its own distraction. Now, let's not forget about micromanaging, of course, because you may not even trust others to execute the tasks well enough. So you just end up doing everything yourself. I'm talking about founders here, especially those who have a team around them. But look, perfectionism isn't only just about trying to be perfect. It's an inner battle. It's a chronic pattern of self-criticism, fear, and control. And you feel like you are in this conflict between the part of you that wants to move forward, wants to create, to finish all these amazing ideas that you have, and then another part of you that is terrified of being seen as flawed, of being judged, of being criticized. And this part is obsessing about all these details, and before you know it, half a day has gone by. And perfectionism can be focused on just one part of your life. For example, maybe your house is messy, But at work, you are meticulous, you're a star employee, you're an amazing employer, business owner, the one who never misses details and just goes beyond and above. Or maybe your job feels chaotic, but you obsess over creating the perfect image of your family, the well-behaved kids, the ideal relationship, the happy home. So you obsess over how your children or your relationship are being perceived by others. So perfectionism can show up in parenting, where it's all about preserving that image of the perfect family. So you may actually strive to be seen as this flawless parent, this supportive partner, the one who has it all together. And when people admire your life, they give you compliments, it gives you a brief sense of relief, a moment where that not good enough feeling quietens down, but it never lasts because the pressure always returns. And over time, it starts to strain your relationships because this need for validation, constant reassurance, or your inability to tolerate imperfection can wear on the people around you because they feel the pressure too. So you might become overly controlling. You hold everything together on the outside, but of course, inside, you're feeling disconnected and alone. So here's the truth. Living this way is not sustainable because you feel stressed all the time. And even sleep can become a struggle. There can be physical issues like migraines, high blood pressure, tension, muscle pain, even teeth grinding. Now, emotionally, perfectionism leads to chronic anxiety because when you push yourself relentlessly forward but feel like nothing ever gets done, to cope, you may actually turn to certain distractions. Overworking is one of them, binge watching, scrolling on your phone, any type of addictions, even alcohol. Anything just to avoid confronting that pressure and to numb out the inner turmoil. It's a way of escaping from difficult emotions, from those uncomfortable thoughts. Now, this cycle of perfectionism prevents you from obviously enjoying your life and disconnects you from the present moment. You feel isolated. And the more you strive for this perfection, the more, disconnected you feel from who you truly are, from your gifts, from your talents. And of course, it slows down progress. You miss opportunities. And over time, perfectionism becomes like a mask. So you appear confident and strong and in control, but you don't really share your struggles or ask for help because the image you've created doesn't allow for imperfection. So that inner voice insists that anything less than flawless is failure. So you end up keeping your problems hidden, even from the people closest to you. Now, like I said, many perfectionists won't admit they're struggling because, of course, that would crack that mask that they've worked so hard to maintain, because admitting struggle feels like failure. That's why depression in perfectionists can be so hard to detect. Because letting go of perfectionism means letting the mask slip, allowing yourself to be seen with flaws and all. And for many, that vulnerability feels really unbearable. So this is why also perfectionism is so hard to recognize, because we've become so used to being this way, like it feels normal. So we don't even question it anymore. It becomes a part of who we think we are. It becomes like this chronic pain that we learn to live with. Now, another reason why it can be tricky to spot is because the world praises so many traits associated with perfectionism. Society values achievements, excellence, high standards, discipline, attention to detail. Employers seek it, teachers reward it. So we confuse perfectionism with being responsible and productive. And perhaps the most surprising thing is that many perfectionists don't even see themselves as such because they feel so deeply imperfect. They imagine perfectionists as tidy, always in control, high achieving, but perfectionism can look like chaos, mess, total paralysis. So you might constantly be doing, striving, polishing everything, or falling into the opposite spectrum of procrastinating, freezing, avoiding. Or you can even oscillate between both extremes, like you could be demanding excellence while being completely paralyzed by fear or indecision. Now, there are also thought patterns that keep this alive. So if you suspect you may have perfectionistic tendencies, begin to notice your internal dialogue. Notice the shoulds, the musts in your thoughts, the rigid black and white thinking like, I should always get 100%, or if it's not perfect, it's worthless, or I must get this right at all costs. These beliefs leave no room for mistakes or learning. Black and white thinking, it frames everything as either total success or complete failure with no space in between. Now, perfectionists often magnify their mistakes, treating every single misstep as proof that they are incompetent or unworthy. And of course, this intensifies their anxiety. Because it's not about doing your best here, it's about never feeling like your best is enough. So you become overly critical towards yourself. And of course, you achieve less, you stress more. That's why it is so essential to recognize that perfectionism isn't possible. And more importantly, it's not even necessary because you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to be human. So, do you know whether you're a perfectionist yet? To help clarify, ask yourself these 5 questions. Do I feel like I must always achieve 100% without fail? Do I have an all or nothing approach, avoiding risk or trying new things? Am I obsessed with accuracy or redoing everything until it's right? Do I feel the need to be or appear perfect in order to be accepted? And am I often paralyzed by fear, self-doubt, or indecision? So ask yourself these questions. And if you are noticing a judgmental voice or some inner resistance come up or a wave of discomfort as you are listening to me right now, that might be the perfectionist part within you, the part that is scared of being seen, fighting to stay in control and to survive because it actually believes that it's keeping you safe. So start by gently noticing. If something I said struck a nerve, if there is a voice inside of you that is saying, this sounds like me, that's your opportunity to begin look more closely, to shine a light there. Because awareness is the first step towards change. And it begins with paying attention. So ask yourself again, am I ready to let go of needing to be perfect? Can I admit that making mistakes is part of being human, part of learning and growth? Am I ready to release the need for control and embrace my true authentic self? Because here's the good news. You can absolutely turn this around because you can have high standards, you can work hard, and you can still be kind to yourself. You can recognize both your strengths and your current limits. You can be motivated without burning out. You can feel accomplished without chasing the impossible. Because again, perfectionism isn't real. It's an illusion. The perfect body, house, business, none of them exist. You might come close, but you will never reach it because perfection isn't human. And perfectionism isn't a permanent part of you. It's something you learned, and that means it can be unlearned. So again, start observing where perfectionism shows up in your life. Is it in your work? In your relationships? Where is it more prevalent? And then, of course, notice the behaviors, the thoughts that are coming up, the patterns in your life. You might even start to write this down. You can make a list of the ways that this holds you back and blocks your progress and what it's costing you. Now, if you want to go deeper and you want to start healing perfectionism at the root, you need to understand what triggers it in you, what created it in the first place, and what it's trying to protect, what beliefs you're still carrying, what fears are blocking your progress. And if there's anything that is not resolved from the past, it could be holding you back. Now, you can find more information on these topics in the next 2 videos in the series where I go deeper on the root causes and the origins of perfectionism, but also you can join the free 60-minute training that is also linked in the description below. So I'm going to finish this by saying, give yourself permission to make mistakes. It is a natural part of growth. Embrace mistakes as opportunities to learn. And instead of trying to be perfect, focus on progress. Because you don't have to get things right the first time. You just need to keep on moving forward, get the wheel moving forward and lower down the bar. Finish something first, achieve it, and then gradually move to the next level. And also set realistic standards. Check in, are my standards realistic? Because instead of aiming for perfection, you can aim for achievable, realistic standards. You can challenge yourself, of course, by setting goals that stretch you, but they don't have to leave you so exhausted and depleted, burned out. Because once again, I want to say change is possible. It takes patience, compassion. It does take some work and willingness to try something new, to let go. And of course, if you would like to explore this more personally, to start unhooking from the pressure to always be perfect, you can find details for one-to-one sessions with me. And remember, done is better than perfect. Celebrate your progress. Allow yourself to be human. Thank you for being here. And you're welcome to subscribe to my channel as well. And if you're working today, I'm wishing you a focused, light, and grounded day, or a productive, energetic one, whatever you need most today. Thank you, and see you again soon.